It's 1927. A struggling animator sits on a train, staring out the window. He has just lost the rights to his own creation. He has no money, no leverage. Just an idea and a quiet determination not to fail again. Fast forward nearly a century, and that same company's logo now opens movies that dominate the global box office. It runs theme parks visited by hundreds of millions, owns franchises that define childhoods, and controls a streaming platform watched in almost every country on Earth. This is not just a success story. This is Disney. Today, we're breaking down exactly how Disney grew from a tiny animation studio into one of the most powerful entertainment empires in human history. We will look at the smart, risky, and sometimes controversial moves that made it happen. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see Disney not just as a company, but as a masterclass in long-term growth. The origin story. Before Disney was magical, it was brutal. In the early 1920s, Walt Disney ran a small animation studio called Laugh-O-Gram in Kansas City. The studio made short cartoons, but poor business decisions and unpaid distributors drove it into bankruptcy. Most people would have quit, but Walt didn't. He moved to Hollywood with nothing but a suitcase, a few sketches, and his brother Roy. This brings us to the first key lesson of Disney's growth. Failure wasn't the end, it was the filter. In Hollywood, Walt created a character named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. The cartoons were a hit, but disaster struck again. The distributor owned the rights to Oswald, not Walt. He lost the character, his animators, and his revenue overnight. On the train ride home, angry and humiliated, Walt sketched a new character, a mouse. That mouse would change everything. Innovation and risk. Mickey Mouse wasn't Disney's first character, but he was the first strategic one. Walt made sure that this time he owned the rights. However, ownership alone wasn't enough. Mickey's first cartoons didn't stand out. So Disney took a risk no one else would. They synchronized sound with animation. In 1928, Steamboat Willie premiered, and audiences went wild. Mickey didn't just move. He spoke, he whistled, and he had personality. Disney instantly became an industry leader. This reveals Disney's second growth principle. Don't just compete, redefine the standard. While other studios copied success, Disney reinvented the experience. By the mid-1930s, Disney was successful but still fragile. Then, Walt made what many called a suicidal decision, a full-length animated feature film. People laughed and called it Disney's folly, believing no one would sit through a 90-minute cartoon. Disney poured every dollar into the project, and Walt even mortgaged his house. If Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs failed, Disney would collapse. Instead, it became the highest-grossing film of its time. More importantly, it proved animation could be emotional, cinematic, and timeless. This moment cemented Disney's identity. They didn't just entertain kids, they told human stories. Survival and expansion. However, success didn't make Disney invincible. World War II hit hard. European markets vanished, animators were drafted, and a massive studio strike shattered morale. Disney survived by adapting. They produced government training films, educational shorts, and lower-budget projects. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept the lights on. The lesson here is that longevity beats momentum. Disney didn't chase short-term hype. They protected the company's future. In the 1950s, Walt had another crazy idea. A theme park. It wouldn't be a carnival or a fair, but a clean, immersive world where families could step inside the stories. When banks refused to fund it, Walt did something revolutionary. He used television. Disney launched TV shows to fund and promote Disneyland before it even opened. When Disneyland debuted in 1955, it was chaos, but guests didn't care. They felt something new. Disneyland turned stories into experiences, unlocking an entirely new revenue engine that didn't rely on box office hits. Suddenly, Disney wasn't just a studio. It was a destination. The Flywheel effect. By the time Walt Disney passed away in 1966, he'd unknowingly designed one of the most powerful business systems ever created. Movies promoted characters. Characters sold merchandise. Merchandise promoted theme parks. And theme parks reinforced emotional loyalty, which guaranteed future audiences. This flywheel effect is why Disney characters don't fade, they compound. Few companies in history have built emotional intellectual property that lasts generations, but Disney mastered it. The modern era. After Walt's death, the company struggled without its visionary leader. By the early 1980s, Disney was vulnerable to hostile takeovers. Then came the turning point in 1984 with CEO Michael Eisner. He treated Disney as a brand machine, doubling down on blockbuster animation and aggressive expansion. This led to the Disney Renaissance, with hits like The Little Mermaid and The Lion King, which globalized the brand. However, corporate tension eventually led to another decline, setting the stage for Disney's boldest era yet under Bob Iger. In 2005, Bob Iger became CEO and made one thing clear. Disney would no longer gamble on creating all its magic. It would buy it. They acquired Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and later 21st Century Fox. These weren't random purchases. Each acquisition brought deep storytelling universes and global fan bases. Disney wasn't just buying companies. It was buying mythologies. They integrated these acquisitions into their flywheel: movies, merchandise, theme parks, and eventually streaming. The streaming wars and future. As media shifted online, Disney faced a choice: license its content or own the future. Disney chose ownership. Disney Plus launched with a weapon no rival had: a century of beloved stories. Within months, Disney became a streaming powerhouse. This wasn't just about subscriptions. It was about reclaiming their relationship with the audience. Of course, Disney's growth hasn't been perfect. They face rising ticket prices, creative fatigue, streaming losses, and cultural debates. But the truth is, every empire faces resistance. What matters is adaptability. Disney has survived the shift from silent films to sound, from theaters to television, and from DVDs to streaming. Conclusion: Disney didn't grow fast. It grew deep, into culture, into memory, and into identity. People don't just watch Disney. They grow up with it and pass it down. That emotional connection is their true competitive advantage. Disney's story isn't about luck. It's about owning your creations, reinventing before decline, and thinking in decades, not quarters. From a bankrupt animator to a global empire, Disney didn't just chase magic, they engineered it. And that's why, no matter how the industry changes, the castle still stands. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Disney's growth, hit the like button. It helps more than you think. Subscribe for more breakdowns of the world's biggest companies and empires, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Disney's best era is behind it, or still ahead? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.